1990s era rappers. Snoop Dogg. By the mid-2000s, Snoop Dogg was already a global icon, but that didn't stop him from running into serious trouble overseas. In May 2006, things went left fast at London's Heathrow Airport. After Snoop and his crew were denied entry into the British Airways first-class lounge, tensions flared and a full-on brawl broke out.
I am riding with you.
Okay,
say that a million times.
Okay, then when we moving. Don't be sitting back there kissing their trying to be friends with them.
I'm not friends. I'm trying to help so
you ain't helping by being friends with them. Hey! What are y'all doing?
By the time it was over, 7 police officers had minor injuries, one of them with a fractured hand. Snoop spent the night locked up and later accepted a police caution for using threatening words or behavior. British authorities didn't treat the incident lightly. They pointed to Snoop's past drug and firearm charges in the US and used that history as justification to ban him from re-entering the UK. And that was just the beginning of his international issues.
They had me banned from here for a minute while I wasn't able to come through the UK, and that was upsetting to me.
You were coming through with Diddy at one stage.
Yeah, me and Puff had.
That's right.
Had shows set up. We was on tour together and they wouldn't let me in.
Less than a year later, in April 2007, Australia followed suit. Just days before Snoop was supposed to co-host the MTV Australia Video Music Awards, the country abruptly canceled his visa. Immigration Minister Kevin Andrews made it crystal clear why, saying Snoop Dogg didn't pass Australia's character test and bluntly adding that he wasn't the sort of bloke we want in this country. The pattern continued in June 2012, this time in Norway, when Snoop landed in Kjevik Airport. Drug-sniffing dogs flagged his luggage. Inside, authorities found 8 grams of marijuana along with more cash than legally allowed. The result was an $8,600 fine and a 2-year ban from Norway. Still, Snoop took it in stride. His lawyer, Holger Hagesaeter, said Snoop can live with the decision, and the rapper went on to perform at the Hove Festival later that same week anyway. MF Doom. His story was quieter, but in many ways even more tragic. Born Daniel Dumoulin in Hounslow, London in 1971, Doom moved to the US with his family when he was just a month old and grew up in Long Beach, New York. America was all he knew. He built an underground rap legacy there, becoming one of the most respected and influential artists in hip-hop history. But legally, he was never fully American. Despite living in the US almost his entire life, Doom never secured citizenship. In 2004, he tried to fix his immigration status through a law meant for long-term residents who arrived there before 1972. He submitted school report cards and proof that he'd lived in the country his whole life. The government, however, demanded utility bills and bank records from when he was an infant, documents that obviously didn't exist. His application was denied, and worse, he wasn't even allowed to appeal the decision. The consequences didn't hit until 2010. After finishing a European tour for his album Born Like This, Doom tried to fly back to the US. That's when an immigration official denied him re-entry. Doom later said the officer seemed like the type who wanted to see just how many people she could make have a bad day. Suddenly, Doom was exiled. Separated from his wife and children for nearly 2 years, he was forced to settle in South London. He poured that frustration into his music, especially on the track Banished, where he rapped, "Villain got banished, refused out the US, he ain't even Spanish." Eventually, Doom accepted it. Later, he told Q magazine that he was done with the US and said he loved the UK's relaxed culture, especially being able to drink outside without worrying about getting arrested. Late 1990s, early 2000s. Jay-Z. By October 2006, Jay-Z was already a global powerhouse and was set to make history with his first ever performance in Shanghai at Hongkou Stadium. It should have been a huge moment, not just for him, but for hip-hop as a whole. Instead, with less than 2 weeks' notice, the Chinese Ministry of Culture shut the whole thing down. The official explanation came through the state-run Shanghai Daily, which said the government needed to protect young people from Jay-Z's so-called nasty lyrics. Officials were uncomfortable with the street storytelling. References to drug dealers, pimps, guns, and violence were all flagged as inappropriate. Promoter Sun Yun later confirmed that the ministry simply found the language too vulgar for public consumption. What made the situation even more ironic was who was allowed into the country. That same year, the Black Eyed Peas performed in Beijing and Shanghai without issue, despite their own suggestive content. Even the Rolling Stones had played just months earlier, as long as they agreed to cut tracks like Brown Sugar and Honky Tonk Women from their set lists. Jay-Z, meanwhile, wasn't offered edits or compromises. He was just shut out. Still, Hove didn't throw a tantrum. He took the setback in stride and posted a calm response on the Rockefeller website, saying he looked forward to rescheduling and that the world tour had been life-changing thanks to the fans. While Jay-Z the performer remained blocked from China, Jay-Z the businessman found a way in anyway. By 2009, Rocawear had successfully expanded into Chinese markets. 50 Cent. In November 2005, 50 Cent ran headfirst into politics while preparing for a Canadian tour. Toronto Member of Parliament Dan McTeague went public with his mission to have the Queen's rapper banned outright. His argument was that 50's gun-toting image was dangerous for a city already dealing with a sharp rise in firearm violence.
Music rapper 50 Cent is known as Fitty, and while I found some people who say his gangster rap is misinterpreted, a Liberal MP says it stirs up gun violence.
Authorities pointed to 50's past as justification, his 1994 conviction for selling crack, and the infamous 2000 shooting where he was hit multiple times during a dispute tied to drug kingpin Kenneth Supreme McGriff. The tension was heightened by tragic memory. When 50 last performed in Toronto in 2003, a 24-year-old college student named Msamaji Granger was shot and killed just outside the venue.
This particular individual was in Canada. An individual was murdered outside of the Molson Amphitheater. Another one almost lost his life.
Eventually, 50 Cent was granted a temporary resident permit, allowing him to perform, but his G-Unit crew didn't get the same treatment. Tony Yayo and Young Buck were denied entry due to their own criminal records and left stranded at the border. When 50 hit the stage at Toronto's Ricoh Coliseum, he leaned into the controversy. He flipped off politicians from the mic, mocking them for protecting fans from his entourage. He even joked about what officials thought someone like Olivia, G-Unit's female singer, was going to do to the country. Despite the theatrics, Canadian authorities took no chances. Fans were forced through extreme security screenings, standing in freezing temperatures just to get inside. It felt like a standoff between hip-hop culture and a government desperate to get control of what they called a violent summer of the gun. The Game. On April 20th, 2011, The Game arrived at the Canadian border expecting to kick off a run of shows in Nova Scotia. Instead of lighting up the stage, he was pulled aside and detained for hours. Canadian officials flagged him as criminally inadmissible, citing his long-standing ties to the Bloods gang. They pointed directly to his lyrics as proof that he shouldn't be allowed into the country. While stuck in limbo, The Game took to Twitter, saying promoters had assured him everything was clear. At one point, he posted, "Patience is a virtue, but things only got worse from there." He later claimed officials threatened to lock him in a cage for up to 14 days while they processed his records, despite regulations requiring a hearing within 48 hours. Eventually, he was forced to hand over his phone and personal belongings and was deported back to the U.S.
I love Canada. I can't even get into Canada. I can't even go to the game. Why not? Because I'm a gangster.
The fallout lasted years. As late as 2019, The Game was still reportedly banned from Canada. Cameron. In December 2010, Cameron learned the hard way that borders never forget. While heading to Montreal for a show with his artist Vado, the Dipset leader was stopped at customs and denied entry.
We in customs. They just shut us down. So, see the flag? Shut me down. This my DJ.
Vado's felony record raised immediate red flags, but Cam's issues went deeper. Canadian authorities pointed to an alleged 2003 incident where Cameron was accused of bringing a machine gun across the border. 7 years later, that accusation was still enough to shut the door completely. Cameron's long-standing code of silence didn't help either. Known for refusing to cooperate with law enforcement under any circumstances, he never publicly addressed the allegations. That same mindset had already defined his image, especially after he stayed quiet even after being shot in both arms during a 2005 ambush in Washington, D.C. The Montreal show was cancelled, but after years of navigating immigration hurdles, Cam eventually made it back to Canada in 2014. Lil Wayne. In June 2002, Lil Wayne was finally set to return to the UK for his first performance in 14 years, scheduled to headline the Strawberries and Cream Festival in Cambridge. Fans were ready, but the UK Home Office wasn't. Just days before the festival, Wayne's visa was denied. The reason traced all the way back to a 2007 weapons charge after a loaded semi-automatic firearm was found on his tour bus. Under UK immigration law, anyone sentenced to 12 months or more in prison is automatically barred, and Wayne had received exactly a 1-year sentence. He served 8 months at Rikers Island under harsh conditions, including time in solitary confinement after being caught with a charger and headphones in his cell. Even a full presidential pardon from Donald Trump in 2020 didn't move the needle. British authorities made it clear that US political favors don't apply at their border. With Wayne grounded, Ludacris was flown in as a last-minute replacement. Chris Brown. Even though he's technically not a rapper, Chris Brown's name has been permanently tied to international travel bans since 2009. The UK was the first to shut the door in June 2010, denying his visa and forcing him to cancel shows in London, Manchester, and Birmingham. The Home Office cited his assault on Rihanna as a serious criminal offense and labeled him a public risk. Canada followed with repeated denials in 2013, 2014, and 2015. In February 2015, just hours before sold-out shows in Montreal and Toronto, Brown was declared criminally inadmissible. He vented on Twitter, blamed the government, then deleted the posts. Things escalated again in May 2025 when Brown was arrested in Manchester over a 2023 incident at London's Tate nightclub.
Singer Chris Brown has been arrested for assault in the UK. He was taken into custody overnight in Manchester, England. This stems from an incident actually 2 years ago.
He was charged with grievous bodily harm after allegedly attacking producer Abe Dial with a tequila bottle, leaving the victim hospitalized with a shattered jaw and torn ligaments.
Brown allegedly beat up a producer and hit him with a bottle at a nightclub in 2023.
Denied bail, Brown was held in custody pending a court date. Late 2000s, early 2010s. WAKA FLOCKA Flame. By May 2015, WAKA FLOCKA Flame was deep into his run as one of trap music's loudest and most recognizable voices. The Atlanta rapper, born Joaquin Malfers, had a full Australian tour lined up, with shows scheduled at major venues like the Broome Convention Centre and Brown Alley in Melbourne. Everything looked locked in until suddenly it wasn't. Right before he was set to fly out, Australia's Department of Immigration and Border Protection shut the whole thing down. The reason was blood. WAKA's past convictions involving drugs and firearms. Australia's character test is notoriously strict, and officials weren't interested in separating the music from the record. What made the situation sting even more was the fact that New Zealand had already cleared him. WAKA took his frustration straight to social media, claiming his promoters had assured him everything was good and then left him hanging. Shortly after, his team went quiet and the tour was officially cancelled. Promoters tried to downplay the role his past charges played, but the damage was done. Tyler, the Creator. Tyler, the Creator's relationship with international borders has always been rocky, but things really boiled over in the mid-2010s. In February 2014, Odd Future was set to open for Eminem at the Rapture Festival in Auckland, New Zealand. Instead, Immigration New Zealand stepped in at the last minute and banned Tyler along with 5 other members of the group, labeling them as a threat to public order.
Talk to me about, after the South by Southwest thing, New Zealand said they banned you.
That was fucking sick. That was sick. Hell yeah. That was so tight. I don't know if
I heard.
y'all niggas got fucked. Yeah.
Authorities pointed to a 2011 incident in Boston where Tyler was accused of encouraging fans to climb onto a roof and yell insults at police during an autograph signing at a comic book store.
Arrest warrant for Tyler Okunma, known as also Tyler the Creator. The rapper yelled for folks to bust through the gates.
To officials, that moment was enough to raise red flags. The irony didn't go unnoticed. Odd Future's manager, Christian Clancy, openly questioned how Eminem, whose lyrics often depict extreme violence, was welcomed as the headliner while Tyler was barred from entering the country. Things escalated even further in 2015. In Australia, a feminist organization called Collective Shout launched a public campaign urging the government to revoke Tyler's visa, citing lyrics from his earlier music that referenced rape and murder. While Australia never officially denied the visa, the mounting pressure and delays caused Tyler's team to cancel the tour altogether. The biggest blow came later that year in August 2015, when then UK Home Secretary Theresa May issued an official ban on Tyler entering the United Kingdom for 3 to 5 years. The Home Office directly cited lyrics from his albums Bastard and Goblin, arguing that they glorified violence and abuse. Tyler said he felt like he was being treated like a terrorist. Fans were especially confused by the decision, considering Tyler had already visited the UK more than 20 times in the previous 5 years without a single incident. M.I.A. Her situation was less about lyrics and more about history and money. Born Mathangi Arulpragasam, she spent part of her childhood in Sri Lanka, where her father was a founding member of a Tamil revolutionary group. That political background followed her when she moved to London as a refugee at age 10. Years later, while recording her album Kala, her father's past landed her on the US Homeland Security risk list, forcing her to wait 10 months for clearance. But surprisingly, the first real legal issue on her record had nothing to do with politics. In the mid-1990s, while living in Los Angeles and struggling financially, M.I.A. and her cousin were invited to a Death Row Records party. With no money for proper clothes, they walked into a department store wearing pajamas, tried on dresses, and walked out without paying. They were caught, charged with shoplifting, and moved on. That old charge resurfaced years later when she tried to sign with Interscope and perform at Coachella. By 2013, her immigration status became a weapon in a bitter custody battle with her ex-fiancé Benjamin Bronfman, the son of billionaire Edgar Bronfman Jr. Bronfman secured a restraining order in New York that blocked M.I.A. from taking their young son to the UK. Frustrated, she took to Twitter, writing, "Just because you have money doesn't mean you have the right." The legal battle dragged on for years. As recently as December 2023, M.I.A. was still publicly pleading with the US government to approve her visa so she could see her teenage son for Christmas. PUSHA T. On November 20th, 2018, PUSHA T's legendary beef with Drake spilled out of the booth and into real life. Performing in Toronto's Danforth Music Hall, right in Drake's hometown, PUSHA was barely 5 songs into a set when things went left. A group of fans rushed the stage, throwing water and beer. Chaos broke out instantly.
Utter chaos at a PUSHA T concert in Toronto. A massive brawl, multiple beatings, multiple injuries, and the cause? Beer.
PUSHA T was performing his songs, and then someone started throwing all these drinks on the stage. He kind of ducks off the stage. People start jumping over the railings to get to the stage.
The aftermath was ugly. 3 people were hospitalized, with reports saying 1 man was stabbed and left in critical condition. PUSHA himself wasn't harmed and eventually returned to the stage to perform Infrared, the song that sparked the feud, while his security stood nearby holding wooden 2x4s. For years, the consequences stayed quiet. Then in May 2022, PUSHA revealed on Drink Champs that he had been banned from Canada entirely because of that incident.
You know, I've been to Canada before. I'm banned from Canada.
You're banned from Canada. I thought you was just saying that.
Oh, no, I'm serious.
According to him and his manager, Stephen Victor, they didn't even realize the ban was in place until after they had already left the country. Canadian authorities labeled him inadmissible, blaming the violence tied to the show, even though PUSHA said he never got the chance to perform his nuclear diss, The Story of Added On. In his own words, he summed it up simply, "I ain't allowed to go back over there." 2010s to 2020s. 21 Savage. On Super Bowl Sunday, February 3rd, 2019, the hip-hop world got blindsided. While most people were locked in for kickoff, news broke that 21 Savage, real name Shea bin Abraham Joseph, had been arrested in Atlanta by US Immigration and Customs Enforcement. For years, fans thought he was a straight-up East Atlanta native. ICE quickly flipped that narrative on its head, revealing he was actually a British citizen who had overstayed an H-4 visa back in July 2006.
New tonight, rapper 21 Savage has been taken into custody by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in Atlanta. Authorities say the rapper, whose real name is Shea bin Abraham Joseph, is from the UK. Federal agents say he entered the U.S. on a visa in 2005 and failed to leave when it expired.
To make things worse, ICE didn't just arrest him, they took shots at his image. A spokesperson publicly claimed his entire public persona is false. The timing made it even crazier. Just 2 days earlier, 21 had been on The Tonight Show performing lyrics that criticized the detention of migrant children at the border. Then suddenly, he was on the other side of that same system. After the arrest, things got dark fast. 21 Savage was placed in a detention facility under near solitary conditions, locked down for 23 hours a day. No TV, no real phone access, only short calls to his manager. That's when Jay-Z stepped in. Hove publicly called the arrest an absolute travesty and personally brought in high-powered attorney Alex Spiro to fight the case. The legal strategy focused on the reality of 21's life. He had been in the US since he was 7 years old, built his entire existence here, and had already applied for a U visa after being shot in a 2013 incident. In other words, this wasn't some outsider gaming the system, this was someone who grew up American in every way except on paper. The case dragged on and kept 21 Savage stuck in legal limbo. He couldn't travel freely, and he even missed the 2019 Grammy Awards, where he was nominated for Record of the Year for Rockstar. It took years, but the story finally got a resolution. In October 2023, 21 Savage officially became a lawful, permanent resident and secured his green card.